it out that the sun shines down its power to all the world and makes the wind blow strong as it will. I wonder how gentle rains can fall upon the land, so lovely earth can stay lovely still. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 599th edition of Energy Week with George Harvey and Nancy Wolf, who is not here today. Hopefully she'll be in next time. I enjoy having Nancy on the show. This show is made up of news articles that come from various sites online. They are put up on my news site, geoharvey.com, geoharvey.com, which is a news aggregation site I've posted to every day. And it usually has 15 items. Sometimes it has fewer if there's not a lot of news coming out. But if you go there, you will find these items, certainly. You can click on the date that I give for the items. We're starting on November 7th, which is a week ago today. This show is being recorded on the 14th of November. Excuse me. And you can go to down below in the description of the show. You'll see a link that'll take you to the site that I use for putting the show together, and you can click on that and go to that site, which has the advantage that the only things there are things that are on this show. We're at the Geo Harvey site, there is 15 items usually on each day, but I only use 3 of them on the show. So I'll start. We have a picture to start with of tomatoes in a garden, and a title. The article is from Clean Technica. The title is "How Do Cooler Heads Prevail?" We've been in a period where a number of people in this country a large number of people have been very upset about the recent elections. I have to say that I think that what is actually going to come out of these elections and as things develop is something that is still an unknown. And before we start getting upset about it, we should find out what it is. The title of the synopsis of the article reads, if we can't talk politics, there is one sustainability that we could turn our attention to. That is local self-reliance. I should have said sustainability issue, but it's local self-reliance. It means that a community can create its own power, grow much of its own food, and make some of the goods that it uses. From farmers markets to community microgrids, we have many parts of a solution. Now, when I was in college, this is in the late 1960s, the area the whole United States was basically overrun with hippies. I was never really one myself. I never minded them. Brattleboro got a number of them, and of course that has had an effect that has lasted ever since. But the reason I bring that up is because across the street from the college that I went to was a hippie commune that had 15 people in it. They all lived in one house, which was a large Victorian house. But I was told by somebody who lived there that they grew all of their food basically on the grounds or in their windows. Now here I am in Brattleboro, and I don't grow all my food. I don't even try. But I and other people in the building that I'm in, there's only 3 of us, have quite a collection of things that we grow and eat. And they include, I'm going to say 7 different cultivars probably of citrus: Eureka lemon, variegated lemon, Meyer lemon, Persian lime, macrut lime, finger limes, blood orange. And I haven't even got to a couple of things there. I know that another one is an unknown hybrid of calamandins. And then we have figs, and then we have persimmons, and then we have all of this stuff that shouldn't be growing in Brattleboro, but does. And we have it in pots, and now it's got cold enough that it's all moved indoors for the winter. But other things are grown on the property, a lot of other things. My landlady, I think, during the summer gets probably all of her vegetable food from her garden. So this is something that can be done. Microgrids, absolutely. And this is a direction that the economy could go in. Okay, I'm gonna continue with the next item. We have an item from Reuters, and I've been trying to figure out where this renewable energy project comes from. The cliffs on the right make me think that it might be Kent, except that the solar panels would be going the opposite direction. So this is somewhere. I don't know where, but it is a renewable energy. You see solar panels in the foreground, wind turbines in the background. The title is Trump Return Likely to Slow But Not Stop U.S. Clean Energy Boom. A Biden-era law providing for a decade of subsidies for new solar, wind, and other clean energy projects would be close to impossible to repeal, thanks to support from Republican states. And other levers available to the next president would only have marginal impact, according to analysts. This is really important. And I think we can see how this plays out when today I saw that John Toon, and I've forgotten what state he is a senator from, but it might be South Dakota, North Dakota, someplace in the upper Midwest. He was elected leader of the Senate because Mitch McConnell was angry at Donald Trump and had the election of the next Senate majority leader done by secret ballot. And I think there's more to what's going on in Washington than just what is reported in the news. And it's a lot of it is different, and it will have an impact on renewable energy. And Republican states, a lot of them, have a lot of benefit from renewable energy and from the energy laws that Joe Biden had passed. So we'll just see how things go. Okay, our next item is from Renews. We have a picture of an offshore wind farm. And the title of this article is Blue Float's 2.1 gigawatt Oz project clears milestone, Oz of course being Australia. The 2,100 megawatt Gippsland Dawn offshore wind project has been granted major project status by the Australian government. It is one of 16 diverse projects nationwide to receive this recognition, and only the second offshore wind project being developed to hold this status. Now, the major project status means that this is streamlined. The permissions and so forth that have to be done for this project are streamlined so that it can be get its status positions granted very quickly. And this is the second offshore wind farm. It's 2.1 gigawatts. It's not a surprise that this would happen. 2.1 gigawatts of wind, offshore wind, might be worth the same in terms of the energy that's produced as 1 gigawatt of nuclear. And that means that this is a substantially larger project than the Vermont Yankee nuclear power plant was. this would be about 50% bigger in terms of the energy that it produces. So that's why they would grant it that particular status, the major project status. We are up to Friday, November 8th. And I've got a computer that is not doing what I tell it to do. Ah, here we go. This particular airplane is powered by a hydrogen fuel cell. This article is from Clean Technica, and the title is Hydrogen Fuel Cell Aircraft Attracts U.S. Army, Navy, and Air Force. The U.S. military has been scouting electric aircraft for new opportunities to improve performance and operational resiliency. Along with battery electric aircraft, hydrogen fuel cell technology is also in play as demonstrated by a small business startup called Hydroplane. A hydrogen fuel cell aircraft is, and it doesn't have to be hydrogen. There are a number of things that can be used. One of them is ammonia. And if it's ammonia gas, which is not what you buy in a hardware store bottled, if it's ammonia gas, it carries a lot more energy per kilogram than hydrogen does, and it's much easier to store because ammonia gas can be stored as a gas under pressure. Hydrogen has to be stored either as a gas or at just excruciatingly low temperatures, very close to absolute zero. The advantage that hydrogen has, or ammonia has, in a fuel cell is that it is much lighter than a battery in terms of the amount of energy that it produces. And there are various ways to do this, but hydrogen and ammonia and other things too can be used. So, you know, it's just one of those things that we're learning how to drive airplanes using electricity. One of the things that I saw, I think I reported on it 2 weeks ago, was that if you store liquid hydrogen, the temperature is extremely low, as I said, but if you use it to cool the motor before it goes into the fuel cell, that cooling effect can make the motor operate basically without, as a superconductor, without electrical resistance. So there's a lot of opportunity to learn here, and we'll just see how that goes. Okay, for the next item, I have an owl. And the reason I can't use this owl is because I like the picture. The story comes from CNN, and the title is, "Hours after Trump's election, Biden moves to limit offshore drilling," to limit drilling in Arctic National Wildlife Refuge. And by the way, that owl pictured, I think was the photograph was taken in Asia. So I'm not going to try to fool you and say that's an owl from the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge. It happens that my daughter likes owls, and she likes them so much that a friend of mine who is Sioux Indian called her Owl Lady, and she really kind of treasured that name. But anyway, the synopsis for this article says a Trump-era law requires oil lease auction in Alaska's Arctic National Wildlife Refuge by the end of this year. Now, the Biden administration is offering at least the least acreage allowed under the law, limiting oil drilling so as to do the least damage. Now, there were 2 auctions that were required, as I recall. And the first one was put up, and of course environmentalists get very upset when this happens, but it's required by law. It might have been a law that Joe Biden inherited from the Trump era. I don't know. But 2 auctions were required. And the first one did not get enough interest to make any awards. So it's the second one now. Is I think it's a fairly large amount of land that is subject to the auction, but it's 400,000 acres, as I recall. It's, as I said, a lot of land, but Joe Biden is trying to limit it so that it is the smallest amount used. And now we're going to go on to an article from Renews, and this is an entry on wind system. What you see there, you see at the top of the picture a wind mast sticking out of the water, wind turbines farther away on the left, and a ship. And then you see the mast underwater and guy lines that are holding it in place. And those guy lines are an important issue in this article. The title is Entry on Wind Bags U.S. Patent for FRP Base. Entry on Wind has won a U.S. patent for its fully restrained platform monopile. Entry on Wind's design for the FPR Foundation extends the range of traditional monopile technology to depths of water up to 100 meters. 100 meters is a fair amount of, that's pretty deep compared to what we can get from solid ground mounted. I'm fussing around for a name here. For ocean bottom ground mounted wind turbines. There are floating point wind turbines after you get to a certain point, but they're expensive. This is a way of using water that's deeper than the conventional offshore wind turbines go, but they go up to 100 meters deep. Now, while offering improved economics compared to other foundation systems. So the article said that using a lot more efficient wording than what I just fumbled through. Okay, we're up to Saturday, November 9th. And our next item is from The Cool Down. This is a publication that I don't recall finding until a couple of months ago. And it has some interesting stuff. It carries interesting articles. This is a picture of the Atacama Desert, which is in Chile. And I think this is not typical of the Atacama Desert. It looks to me like, well, the mountains have snow on them. The Atacama Desert has basically, there are parts of it that just will go years and years and years without any rain at all. The title is Researchers Propose Innovative Telescope Project to Bring Reliable Energy to Remote Communities. And when I first saw that title, I thought, telescope? What are they using a telescope for? Well, the telescope is not being used to provide electricity. The telescope is an excuse to build electricity, and then the electricity is given to the communities. The telescope needs electricity, and the communities get what's left over. A study shows that powering a new telescope in Chile's Atacama Desert with solar energy can also support around 66% of the electricity needs of nearby communities, according to a media release from Utrecht University. So there we kind of have it. The telescope is not built yet. The solar electricity array is being built to power the telescope. And when they say telescope these days, I don't know what it means. It could mean an optical telescope. It could mean a radio telescope. I just don't know. The Atacama Desert would be an excellent place for an optical telescope because there's almost no clouds. But I could absolutely see large radio telescope arrays, and whatever the telescope is, it needs electricity. So they're bringing in the solar electricity, a telescope of the type that they're putting up obviously needs some people to operate it. And that implies that these people need to live in a community. I don't know how big it is, but this I should have looked to find out. But this is an excuse to build up an array to power a community. Okay, the next item that I have is from Clean Technica, and we have a picture. Let me put the picture up. The title is Run, Forest, Run. Obviously, they're talking about a forest, but they're making a pun with a movie, Forrest Gump. The title of this is Brink of Irreversible Climate Disaster. Quote, "We are on the brink of irreversible climate disaster," end quote, says an article from 14 climate scientists. They say we reached record levels in 25 out of 35 planetary vital signs, and that planetary vital signs is also in quotes, last year. They want fossil fuel subsidies dropped, carbon pricing increased, and more people involved. Good luck with that. This is from Clean Technica. I want to tell you a little story, which sounds like it is unrelated to this, but it is. I came across a TV show that was put up in the UK in 2022. It is now available on YouTube in the United States. My daughter, who lives in Scotland, can't get it without paying, but the payment there is not huge. But it's a 6-episode series of an hour each, including ads. So there are 6 episodes of about 48 minutes. And it's called War Gamers. And it is a series that I would recommend for any little girl to watch. And it's about U-boat tactics, submarine tactics from the Second World War. And it's about Karl Dönitz, who was the head of the U-boats, became the head of the Navy. Ultimately, when Hitler committed suicide, he became the Führer and signed the unconditional end of the war. But he was the genius of the U-boat tactics. And the story is about how the British Navy had no idea how U-boat tactics were working. So if they sank a U-boat, they located it basically by luck. And a man named Gilbert Roberts was brought in. He had been retired from the Navy as a commander because he had tuberculosis. But he was brought in personally by Winston Churchill to do war games, to find out how the tactics were working and what could be done about them. And he tried to get people on his staff who were officers with good minds. None of them was available. They were all off fighting Germans, and their bosses thought that they were far too important fighting Germans to be used in a war game school. So he staffed his war game unit with Wrens, Women's Royal Navy Service members. And these Wrens were 17 to 21 years old. The oldest of them was a remarkable young woman named Jean Laidlaw, who had she had been not certified, but she had been made an accountant. At the age of 21, she was already an accountant in Britain. The first woman to become an accountant in Britain. In the TV show, she is said to be among the first, but I looked it up. She was the first. And those young women not only figured out how German tactics worked, they figured out how to outsmart them. So Karl Dönitz, the genius of the U-boat, was outsmarted by a bunch of little girls who were 17 to 21 years old. I'm not kidding. And yes, I know about the and breaking of the Enigma machine. And I know about escort carriers and their advantages in escorting convoys, but they were destroying German submarines before those two advantages were really kicked in. And I'm not sure that things could have got better without those wrens. The point is, if you think that you don't have the ability to do something, think again. You might. And maybe what you have to do is think like a little girl. Anyway, there is that. Our next item is from ABC News. This is American Broadcast Company. This is a picture of Gina McCarthy. The title of the article is U.S. Climate Leader Calls Trump's Threatened IRA Rollbacks, quote, a fool's errand, end quote. Former Biden White House National Climate Advisor Gina McCarthy called any attempt to roll back Inflation Reduction Act funds by the next Trump administration a, quote, fool's errand, end quote, during a call with climate leaders on their continued goals for climate progress. I don't know what's going to come of this administration. I don't know what Donald Trump is going to decide to do. I don't know how much permission he is going to be given by such things as the Senate of the United States. I just don't know. But I think that one of the things that he might learn if he decides that he's going to put an embargo or get tariffs, trade tariffs from other countries, he might learn that they can do the same thing. And if he starts closing down these funds, he might learn that even within his own administration, there are people who know better. Elon Musk is said to have a cabinet position in this next administration, but Elon Musk believes in climate change, or at least he says he does. And I think that he might be able to guide some of the things that happen. I have a note here that says Governors Michelle Lujan Grisham and Jay Inslee. She is a Democrat. I think they're both Democrats. She's from North Carolina. He's from Washington. They are members of the U.S. Climate Alliance, which calls itself a bipartisan coalition of 24 governors securing America's net zero future by advancing state-led high-impact climate action. We're not going to be able to have things like that going without bringing the country ahead. That's just the way it is. Okay, we're up to Sunday, November 10th, and we've got an article from Clean Technica. This is a picture of a proposed orbiting solar power plant. The title of the article is a 30 megawatt space solar power plant is scheduled for 2030. That's not that far away. UK startup Space Solar has announced a collaboration with Climate Initiative Transition Labs, the Climate Initiative Transition Labs, to build a 30 megawatt solar power plant in orbit and beam the solar energy down to a site in Iceland by 2030. The Icelandic energy firm Reykjavik Energy has signed up as an off-taker. Excuse me. My note on this says, sending radio waves to Earth. What could go wrong? I don't know about this. I don't like it. Maybe they'll try it and it'll work perfectly. I don't know, but I'm a little worried about radio waves. One of the things I use this mouse here in the studio. I use this mouse as well. The second of those two mice it belongs to the studio. This one belongs to me. The reason I bring this up is because if you look into the small print that comes with a mouse, or for that matter, with many cell phones, if you look at the small print on the cell phone, you'll find that some of them have a warning that says, caution, do not keep this phone in your pocket. So where are you supposed to keep it? Well, you're supposed to keep it somewhere other than your pocket. Like for example, if you have a bag, you keep it in the bag. The problem is that radio waves apparently can cause health issues, specifically cancer, but I'm told that people who have pacemakers and things of that nature can have interference from such things as cell phones that are in their pockets. So when you're sending 30 megawatts of power, that's a fair amount of power. And I don't know what can happen. Okay, I'm going to go ahead. We have a picture here of the Adirondacks, and this is not a drought in the Adirondacks that you see. I think this is probably a rather frosty morning in the fall, and you're seeing fall colors. And I say frosty because the trees in the lower right look like they might have frost on them. This is from MSN, and the title is NYC Under Drought Watch After Second Driest in October in Recorded History. New York City agencies are being ordered to make water conservation plans, and residents urged to, quote, conserve every drop possible, end quote, as a drought watch follows a historically dry October. October saw the second longest rainless streak in the city's recorded history. Now, I should point out, I don't know how many news items I look at every day. I think it's probably normally over 300. And I'm not talking about that I read through. I don't even read all the titles through, but this is the number of titles I look at. I reject titles. I stop reading them as the moment I see that they have something about stock price, because with the exception of a very few of those, I'm not interested. Tesla stock is going to go up, down wildly, and I don't have an investment, so it doesn't mean much for me. More to the point, my readers don't have investments in Tesla for the most part, and it doesn't mean much for them. And it's not something that I want to cover when I'm covering stuff about energy and climate change. Yes, it is peripherally important, but only peripherally. This is talking about a drought that is causing wildfires in Massachusetts, New York, New Jersey. I don't know, I haven't read about any wildfires in Vermont that I remember, or New Hampshire that I remember, or Western Massachusetts for that matter, but I can't say that they're not coming. We are in a time when climate change is causing mischief locally. Okay, next item. You just saw a really nice, an item with a really nice view. Here's an item that has a really nice view also, except that the view is somewhat choked by a landfill. This item comes from oilprice.com, and it's about landfills. How landfills can help solve the renewable energy land shortage. While energy companies often seek out prime land to develop wind and solar farms, landfills offer an alternative option. And just ask Brattleboro. That's where our big solar array is. That is unlikely to garner broad opposition. A number of countries, including the United States, France, and the UK, are pursuing landfill solar projects. Our project in Brattleboro doesn't even cover the whole landfill. The landfill is no longer in use, but the project is 5 megawatts. And when it was installed, it was the biggest solar farm in the United States, in Vermont. It's hard to imagine that I would say United States, but I was headed in that direction. Landfills are just a place where the land has very little value. You can't build a building on it because of special characteristics that are going on. You've got to deal with the methane that comes up from underneath, and you've got to make sure that it doesn't escape if you can do that. There are all sorts of things that are special about it, but you can put solar panels on it if you know how. You have to have a solar installer who knows what he's doing. There are other things, other places that are like that, brownfield sites that have been places where chemical companies have operated and so forth. So there are, the United States has many of these sites. We are up to Monday, November 11th, and we have a picture of an MG4 electric vehicle. Our article is from Clean Technica. And the title is Tesla Outsold by BMW and Volkswagen in Germany and MG in the UK. Remember when the Tesla Model Y outsold every other electric car anywhere all the time? No more. As of the end of October, Volkswagen brand sold 49,200 electric cars in Germany. BMW sold 33,167. Tesla was in third place at 31,461, and MG beat Tesla also in the UK. I don't know what's happening with Tesla. It's run obviously by Elon Musk, and I don't know what's going on with Elon Musk. I will say that I honestly think that Elon Musk is a genius. And I honestly think that the fact that he's a genius doesn't mean he's right all the time. In fact, I think that it means that he's willing to say things that are wrong far more often than most people are. But more to the point, he's willing to think that they're right because he knows his own ability. This is just my guess. And the result of that is that he makes lots and lots of mistakes. So, you know, I think that includes the way he runs the auto company, and perhaps the way he runs SpaceX. And did you know about the Boring Company? He has a company called the Boring Company. It's for boring holes in the ground to make tunnels. Okay, we have an article next that has a picture of Montmartre, and it is, which is an area in Paris, and it is an area that is not within the zone, but I like the picture. This is from Clean Technica. The city center in Paris is now designated a limited traffic zone. In Paris, iconic spots like the Louvre, Tuileries Gardens, and much of Marais fall within, I'm not even going to pronounce it right because it's French, and I don't know French. Zone à traffic limité. Limited traffic zone. The area of the ZTL measures 5.5 square kilometers, which is about 2 square miles. It is home to nearly 100,000 people and 11,000 businesses. I was last in Paris in 1962. That was a fair time ago. I was 15 years old. And interesting place. But yeah, the air is polluted in Paris, has been for a long time, probably dating back to the 18th century, 19th century. And they're going to have better health and a lot of things better if they can keep the cars out. They're working on it. Okay, Baird Maritime provides this next item. The title is UK Electric Inland Vessel Project Gets Government Funding. This is a picture of the Thames. You can see that you can, well, you can tell that this is London. The bridge is a clue. The Electric Thames project seeks to enable electric vessels to store surplus renewable energy when it is cost effective. This stored energy can be returned to the grid during peak demand, increasing London's flexible energy capacity and advancing its net zero ambitions. Now, this is inland vessel. They're talking about electric vessels, that riverboats basically, and they can have batteries that store electricity and are used the way we talk about cars storing batteries for car to grid, vehicle to grid, or buses, vehicle to grid. This is the same kind of thing, but it's bigger. Anyway, I'm going to go on. The next item, we're up to Tuesday, November 12th. The next item, we have a picture of solar panels that have been put up on batteries. This is from Renew's megawatt mosaic greenlit for Italian batteries. Developer Megawatt Mosaic has secured the planning consent and grid connection for a portfolio of 99 megawatt battery energy storage systems. I'm sorry about all the coughing. I was not coughing, and then I came here. Battery energy storage system sites in Italy. 2 of these are in Sardinia. The other 2 are in Tuscany. They will form part of the Tyrrhenian Link, a planned submarine transmission connection. So they're going to have a cable connecting Sardinia with mainland Italy. Whoops, there we go. And we'll see how that goes, but it certainly makes sense that they would do this. The next item is from Clean Technica. We have a picture of this just says Solar Power US DOE. Global installed solar capacity to blow past 2 terawatts. That's 2,000 gigawatts. USA or not? Well, I want to comment before I read the synopsis for this. An article that I read today, or that I came across today, I didn't read the whole article, says that, it puts this into past tense. It says that we have already done the job of going past 2 terawatts. And in fact, not only does it say that, but it gives a more exact number of gigawatts, which is more than 2 terawatts. In its latest report, the Global Solar Council says that solar is becoming, quote, the backbone of the global energy system, end quote. And they are acting with other renewable stakeholders to keep pumping up the growth profile, regardless of U.S. energy policy over the next 4 years. And, you know, I think that we're going to have to get used to the fact that if we don't operate the way that the rest of the world wants us to, we can find ourselves in a situation where they are way ahead of us. Now, China is already way ahead of us in terms of manufacture of cars, even though we've got Tesla. Tesla makes cars in China. China also has BMW, and I'll show you things about BMW in a minute, in a few minutes. But they're ahead of us on electric buses. They're ahead of us on solar panels. They're ahead of us on companies that make wind turbines. They're ahead of us in many, many respects. And the reason is partly because we have been held back. And, you know, that's unfortunately the system that we have before us. And there's not much that we can do about that except to try to catch up. If Donald Trump is interested in catching up as President of the United States, we could go a long ways. But preliminary expectations are not that he will do that. He could. but they're not that he would do that. Okay, the next item is from PV Magazine Australia. And we have a picture of a site where they're going to do some work. The title of the article is "Developers Seek Western Australia Approval for a 70 gigawatt green energy hub." This is absolutely mind-blowing. 70 gigawatts is more than 10,000 times the size of the solar site that we have at the landfill, 5 megawatts. This is 70 gigawatts. It's 14,000 times as big. The consortium behind the proposed Western Green Energy Hub, a 70 gigawatt renewable energy generation and green hydrogen production facility proposed for Western Australia's southern coastline, lodged its application with the state's EPA for approval. This is not the project that is planned to have a 1,400-mile submarine cable going to Singapore. This is a project which is just going to make a lot of electricity, and it's going to use that electricity to make, or some of that electricity to make green hydrogen, which means that it could use some of the electricity to make green ammonia. And I don't know whether people realize how many things can be made if you have lots of hydrogen. Ammonia is just one of them. And if you've got ammonia, you can use it as a carrier for energy. It's relatively easy to store and transport, but it's also not just used for energy. It's used as a chemical stock that is used for making chemicals, including fertilizer and explosives. You know, I mean, ammonia is kind of, what is it? There was a line in The Imitation Game where Alan Turing says that he's agnostic, or he's agnostic when it comes to violence. Somebody asks whether he cares that there's Hitler is 600 miles away, and he says he's agnostic regarding violence. Well, ammonia is agnostic regarding violence. It can be used as a starting chemical to build explosives. It can be used as a starting chemical to build lots of things. It is used as a starting chemical for building fertilizer. Some of the fertilizers are explosive. I mean, this is a complicated issue, but I think it was ammonium nitrate that was used at the Oklahoma City bombing. Obviously, that starts with ammonia. What they're planning on doing is using it for whatever purpose, and that probably is largely fertilizer. But it can be used, or the green hydrogen can be used for other purposes, including directly making energy. And they will ship that all over the place. Do I think this will work? I think that it will not work the way they want it to. And the reason is because lots of people all over the world are trying to do the same thing. This project is pretty big, though, and it will be interesting to see what happens as a result of it. I think it will be used for energy, and it'll be used for fertilizers and other valuable chemicals, hopefully not explosives. Although, you know, we need explosives too once in a while. Okay, the next item that we have on the list is, we're up to Wednesday, November 13th, and we have an item from Asian Power, which was also a source that I didn't know anything about when it first appeared to me. I think about 4 months ago, maybe longer, I don't remember, but it seemed to be new. And it has good articles. The title of this article, well, what we're seeing is a nuclear power plant in the background there. I believe it is nuclear, although coal-burning power plants also have cooling towers. We see two of them there. But this plant doesn't appear to have any smokestacks, and I would see smokestacks at coal-burning power plants. The title of this article is Nuclear Power Remains Irrelevant in International Market, according to a report. Nuclear power remains irrelevant in the international energy landscape as countries prioritize solar with batteries to achieve their energy goals. This is according to the Nuclear Industry Status Report 2024. Solar and wind capacities in 2024, I don't know the exact year that this goes on. Obviously, 2024 is not over yet. But solar and wind capacities grew by 460 gigawatts. And in that same time, nuclear power declined by 1 gigawatt. And I think that it's important that we recognize that even though we have lots and lots of stuff in the news about how small modular reactors are going to save the world and nuclear power plants are the wave of the future. And today I saw that Joe Biden wanted to triple the US nuclear capacity by 2050, I think. I don't know. Even though we've got lots of these headlines, and even though we've got lots of people in the energy sector who should know things about what's going on, who say we need nuclear power, I don't see evidence that that is the case. What I do see is that NextEra Energy, 2.5 years ago, said that they were going to develop solar, they were going to develop wind, they were going to develop batteries. They were not going to develop any fossil fuels, and they were not going to develop nuclear power, even small modular reactors. Now, NextEra Energy owns, as I recall, 7 nuclear reactors. It might be 6, but they are the people who own Seabrook. And they published something that said that energy from new nuclear reactors costs about 3 times as much, maybe 4 times as much as energy from what they call near firm solar and near firm wind. I've talked about this a number of times. Near firm solar and near firm wind, they describe as being at least as reliable as nuclear for providing energy on demand at peak demand times. And we've got batteries coming along that are astonishing in terms of what their energy storage is. We've got 100-hour batteries and things of that nature. I think that it's pretty easy to show that the quality of the electricity in terms of reliability and other things from solar and batteries or wind and batteries is higher than the quality of electricity from nuclear. But we still see this people saying we need nuclear power. A lot of those people have got investment in nuclear power. They are part of the nuclear industry. They own part of the nuclear industry. And, you know, what does that mean? Well, in terms of, when you look at the marketplace, in terms of the amount of money that's actually spent, nuclear is not coming back on yet. And it'll take years for it to do it because it takes years to build nuclear power plants, even small modular reactors, because small modular reactors are built in factories and none of the factories has been built. It takes time to put this stuff together. We don't have time to stop climate change. We have to be working on that right now. So, next item. We have a picture of climate pollution. This is from CNN. The title is Planet Heating Pollution to Hit All-Time High, Dashing Hopes that it would start to drop in 2024. There were people who believed that the carbon emissions would start to fall this year, but apparently, according to CNN, it's not going to happen. Global levels of plant heating pollution from fossil fuels will hit record levels this year. According to recent projections, dashing hopes that 2024 would be the year they plateau or fall. Fossil fuel pollution is set to increase by 0.8% from 2023. 0.8% is a fairly big increase compared to what we should be having is a decrease of like 5% per year, at least. We can do that. That can happen. And if I didn't put that up, there it is. That's a real place on this earth. And I don't know where it is, but I don't want to be there. Now we come to the last article of today's show, and I'm going to put this up. This is all sorts of commercial vehicles. These vehicles are all made by BYD, a Chinese company in Shenzhen, China, which is just north of Hong Kong. This is from Clean Technica, and the title is BYD Commercial Vehicle Sales Up 49%. That's 49% from last year. Now I want to point out to you the front row of this, which is 9 vehicles. I think all the vehicles there are buses of various sizes. I see an articulated bus on the right, double-decker bus on the left, and then behind them are other commercial vehicles with a couple of cars. BYD makes a lot of cars, but what's behind there is mostly transportation vehicles. I see one mining vehicle right in the middle. To the right of the mining vehicle is a cement mixer. A lot of stuff there. BYD's big business is its passenger vehicle. But BYD also reports production and sales of its electric buses and production and sales of other commercial EVs. BYD delivered 9,849 BYD commercial vehicles in January through October of this year, which is a 49% increase over the same months in 2023. BYD is growing at an astonishing rate and all over the world. Not in the United States, by the way, because none of their vehicles are for sale in the United States, but they're growing in Mexico, they're growing in Chile, they're growing in India, they're growing, I think they're growing in India. The Indians are starting to get some kind of unusual trade embargoes on certain things coming from China. But BYD is shipping some of these vehicles to Europe, as I recall. And at the same time, right now, Tesla's sales, as I recall, are down a little bit from last year. Doesn't look nice. And the sense that I have is that the kinds of people who buy Teslas in the United States are at this point really angry at Elon Musk because of his political views. So we'll see what comes of that. Okay, our show is over. I have a final wish for you, which is have an amazingly peachy week. I'm going to wave goodbye, and I hope you come back next time. I look forward to the next show. And have a good week. Bye-bye.